we're going to have to run night shift. We want to get 1,000 ounces this year, so we're going to kick that off tonight, and if night shift goes well, then we're running double the hours, so that should mean double the goal. Fingers crossed. It's all that's going to matter is getting all the hours on the wash plant as we possibly can to hit our target. Anything to keep that wash plant running full tilt, from a risky wash plant gamble to a jaw-dropping $36,000 score. This is how Kevin Beets humiliated Tony Beets and Parker Schnabel. But how did he turn this gamble into one of the biggest paydays ever? Kevin had big goals, and to hit them, he brought in some fresh faces, including Caden Foote, a young miner from a family with deep roots in the business. Caden had only been on the crew for 2 weeks when he was suddenly thrown onto the night shift. He was expected to keep the whole operation running alone, no backup, no second opinions, just him, the plant, and whatever might be lurking in the dark. If something went wrong, it was all on Caden. No one would be there to help until morning. It's a little stressful. You can't see for half of your shift with how dark it is, and I'm all by myself. I don't have anyone to help me make certain decisions or anything, and there's lots of wildlife out here, so just got to keep your head on a swivel and make sure that you stay safe, because if something happens to you out here on nights, no one will find you until the morning. And of course, something did go wrong. The conveyor belt overloaded with pay dirt snapped under the pressure. Just like that, the whole night's work was on the line with thousands of dollars at risk. Caden had no choice but to shut the plant down, costing them valuable hours. By morning, the day shift arrived to an absolute disaster. Tons of dirt clogging the hopper and a busted conveyor belt in urgent need of repair. This wasn't just a small problem, it was a complete nightmare. Thank God I came to look at the feeder, and the drive wheel was moving, but the belt wasn't. Let's see. Digging out 12 tons of dirt by hand was brutal, and no one was happy about it, but instead of wasting time pointing fingers or arguing, the crew leader jumped straight into action. He had dealt with breakdowns like this before and knew that standing around complaining wouldn't fix a thing with tools in hand. He got to work. The team depended on him, and every wasted minute meant more gold slipping through their fingers. In this business, time was money, and they couldn't afford to lose either. The repair was anything but simple. When they took a closer look, they realized the damage was far worse than expected. Some parts were completely worn out. A quick fix wouldn't hold, but replacing the entire system would take way too long. He had to figure out a way to get things running again without making it worse. Using his mining experience and a little creative thinking, he found a way. He and his team patched up the broken section, reinforced the weak spots, and made sure everything could handle the pressure. It wasn't a perfect fix, but it was good enough to keep things moving. The moment they switched the machine back on and saw the belt running again, they knew they were back in business. But the damage had already been done. Hours of work had been lost, and in mining, lost time means lost gold. Falling behind wasn't an option. The only way to recover was to push harder, longer shifts, less rest, no mistakes. His team was already exhausted, but there was no other way. If they wanted to stay on top, they had to move faster and make every second count. The pressure was intense, but he had a plan, and he believed in it. A little guilty that everyone had to shovel that out, and I didn't have to, but it's not my fault that it broke on me. It's just part of how it goes. Then the results started rolling in. In just 1 week, they pulled in a massive $36,000 worth of gold, more than 4 times of what they had mined the previous week. No one had expected such a huge jump in production, but he trusted his strategy, and now the numbers proved him right. 4, 6, 21, 30, 50, 70, 80, the long hours, the exhaustion, the relentless pace, it had all paid off. He hadn't just kept up, he had surged ahead. Parker and Tony had been watching, probably expecting the plan to fail. But instead of struggling, his operation was soaring past them. Everything was running smoother, faster, and more efficiently than anyone had predicted. Another miner trying to stay afloat. anymore. He was leading the pack, but when did Kevin develop the guts to do what he believed was right? The head of the Beets family, Tony Beets, built his gold mining empire through determination, hard work, and a stubborn refusal to quit. Tony was as tough as he looked. His son, Kevin, grew up in the middle of it all, the roar of heavy machinery, the long hours, and the pressure to prove himself. From a young age, he was expected to follow in his father's footsteps, and for a while he did. By his late teens, Kevin was already leading crews, showing that he had real skill. But skill wasn't the issue. He had his own ideas about mining, and they didn't match Tony's old school ways. As Kevin got older, the tension between them grew. He wanted to modernize the operation, bring in new technology, and change how things were done, but Tony wasn't having it. He stuck to what had worked for him for years, and that clashed with Kevin's vision. I know you went school and all the already, but I mean, do you have to make spaceship out of it? It's still not easy sometimes, cuz Tony does not like to hear that he's wrong, so you kind of got to broach this subject slowly and carefully and let him come to your conclusion by himself. The disagreements built up until something had to give. By season 14 of Gold Rush, Kevin made a bold move. He walked away from the family business. Kevin explained this through a video call on the computer. Kevin and his girlfriend Faith Tang were on the call, and Kevin told his dad that he wouldn't be joining them that season. This seemed a poor move, since Kevin did it without warning, just as his dad was gearing up for the season. With very little time to figure out Kevin's replacement, he left his dad in a really bad spot. According to Kevin, he wanted to get in some gardening and fix up their house. From the sound of it, he was just growing tired of the mining life and wanted to spend more time at home. But this was not good enough for Tony, who called it an excuse. He might have been mad that his son waited until the last minute, making things harder on him and his operations. With all this drama, Tony was left scrambling to fill the gap, and fans were shocked, considering how important Kevin's role was. Wanting to keep things in the family, Tony decided to keep moving ahead and put his daughter Monica in charge of the plant. Some admired Kevin for stepping out of his father's shadow, while others thought it was reckless to leave behind a decades-old operation. Breaking away wasn't easy. Kevin wanted to prove he could make it on his own. No Beets name to back him up, no built-in support, but reality hit hard. He faced equipment failures, brutal weather, and financial struggles. The mining industry is unforgiving, and without his father's resources, every challenge felt even bigger. Every mistake taught him something. Every setback reminded him that making a name for yourself isn't as easy as just walking away. But then came the moment everyone saw coming. He needed help. His equipment wasn't working, and he had no choice but to reach out to the one person he swore he'd never rely on again, Tony. But Tony wasn't the kind of man to just hand out favors. He believed in tough love, in earning your place, not getting handouts. When Kevin asked for help, Tony didn't just say no. He made it clear that if he wanted something, he had to work for it. This wasn't just about machines, it was about pride, about proving a point. And just like that, the gap between them grew even wider. Gold Rush fans watched it all unfold, and they had plenty to say. Some backed Kevin, saying he deserved a real shot at making it on his own. Others sided with Tony, arguing that he should respect the very system that helped build him. But one thing was obvious: this was more than just a business disagreement. This was a full-blown family feud, and there were no easy answers. Despite all the tension, Tony wasn't completely heartless. When things got bad enough, he eventually stepped in, offering some equipment when Kevin needed it most. Was it a peace offering or a way to keep the family name intact? No one really knew, but it proved one thing: no matter how much they clashed, Tony still cared about his son's success, even if he had a tough way of Showing it then came the move that no one saw coming. Kevin teamed up with Parker Schnabel, that's right, Tommy's biggest competitor if leaving the family business wasn't enough. Working with Parker felt like a direct challenge to Tony's legacy. Was it a smart business decision? Maybe. Was it personal? It sure looked that way. Breaking away from family is never easy, and Kevin was determined to prove himself, but walking away didn't mean leaving everything behind, because in the end your past always has a way of catching up with